Nation of Fit in Town, welcome to day 49. And being that it's day 49, we've got 21 days to go. And I want to remind you that a lot can happen in 21 days. I also want to remind you the power of being consistent, making the right choices. I know some people came in today, they regressed a bit, or didn't necessarily regress, but they didn't do as well as they did in their first to second scan. Some people did better in their second to third scan. But we all know why this happens, right? So it's all about the consistency. It's all about, it doesn't matter what you're working towards. It's about doing the right things consistently over time. That's where the magic lies. It's not about, okay, just to remind you, it's not about doing anything extreme over the short term. It's about finding something that works for you, that's in moderation, so that we can sustain it, right? Because after all, we are just a reflection of our recent past. Whatever we do that works for us, we have to keep doing, right? So anyways, reminder for consistency. Okay, I had about 3 people mention that they need to get to sleep earlier. And this is really, really important, because you know something, if you don't get to sleep earlier, if you go to bed, even if you go to bed later, okay? So if you go to bed, let's say 12, right? Let's say you normally go to bed 10, you go to bed 12 or 1. And you sleep 7 or 8 hours, which is, reasonable. You're still not going to get the same quality of sleep. You want to try to stay within your circadian rhythm, and you might be. And if you are, that's great. But the whole reason I'm telling you this is because if you don't seem to be getting a deep sleep, one thing that can help you, or a couple things that can help you, a combination of zinc, well, specifically this product, Yin Reserve, and zinc. Did I just repeat what I said? Yin Reserve and zinc. I feel like I just said zinc and zinc, but I don't know. Anyways, Yin Reserve, this is basically, this is a couple forms of magnesium, inositol and L-theanine. This really helps to relax you. It brings you into that parasympathetic state, that relaxed state. And along with zinc, you get a much deeper sleep. You'll probably have more vivid dreams too. You don't have to take the Yin Reserve. You can go with something a little bit cheaper, like the Cinermag. You could do Cinermag and zinc. And that's actually what I'm currently doing personally right now. Only because I ran out of Yin Reserve, but now I have more. It works wonders for getting a deeper sleep, okay? Plus, these are really, really important minerals, all right? So just even putting sleep aside, these are really important minerals. Magnesium, in fact, just coming out recently. I've been reading a lot about magnesium and its effects on depression, okay? Alleviating depression, okay? Mental depression we're talking about here. So anyways, just thought I'd throw it out there. Ciner Zinc and Ciner Mag, or you could replace the Ciner Mag with Yin Reserve before you go to bed, okay? All right, question. What do I think of carb cycling? How do you know about carb cycling? Is it getting that popular? Okay, carb cycling was, to my knowledge, has been something that's really popular in the bodybuilding industry and has been for years. What do I think of it? I think it's awesome. I actually think it's a great dieting strategy. However, it requires you to be even more methodical than you are right now, because you have different days of different amounts of carbohydrates. And so really what this means is you have to be, that much more prepared. All right, so even with myself, with what I do with my diet right now, I just follow a static diet. Like basically, my diet is virtually the same daily, but I would have to plan better. Okay, I'd have to do more planning myself if I were to do carb cycling. Now, carb cycling, what's the advantage of doing carb cycling? Okay, or what is carb cycling? So let's talk about that. Carb cycling is essentially going through periods of lower carbohydrates and then periods of higher carbohydrates. And there's many ways you can carb cycle. All right, so you could do something along the lines of 3 lower days of carbs, 1 higher day of carbs. You could do a low day of carbs, a medium day of carbs, a high day of carbs, and you could cycle that through. You could do a very long duration of carb depletion, and then maybe 2 days of high carbs. There's many ways you can structure this. I like it because it's very good for dieting and maintaining healthy thyroid function. That's the main reason I like it. I also like it for bodybuilding in particular because you can time your carbohydrate loading with your more intense training days. For example, you may have experienced this now. Legs are much more intense training than, say, just training your arms. When I say arms, I'm not even talking about training your chest or your back. I'm talking about just your arms. There's a big difference, right? So one, you need a lot more fuel for than the other. So, carb cycling can really play a good part in this, especially if you're trying to diet, but you still want to have really effective training and you don't want to feel depleted when you come in for a leg day or a big back day or something like that. You may want to do carb cycling. But like I said, carb cycling requires you to be that much more methodical. You can be really careful with how you're structuring things. You got to count the carbs really closely. So, yeah, I think carb cycling is awesome. I think it's, I would actually do it, but it's that much more work, and so I choose not to do it. All right. So if I wasn't maybe as lazy, I mean, I don't know if you want to call it lazy, but I just don't really see the necessity for me to do it. But it would be something I would consider doing for sure if I were dieting for a bodybuilding contest. Yeah. Okay, which doesn't really apply to you unless you want to do a bodybuilding contest. But you could use it just for general dieting, all right? Something else I'll say on it is, you might kind of wonder how it works, but essentially, we've got a storage capacity for carbohydrates. We've got our muscles, and we've got our liver. And so we can deplete carbohydrates from our muscles and our liver, and then we can refuel with them. So, this is where you can get away with, if you're carbohydrate depleted, you can get away with a day of higher carbs because there's going to be much less chance of those carbohydrates being stored as fat if you're carbohydrate depleted. All right. So if you were ever to follow a low carb diet, I would institute high carb days. Periodically, I would institute some high carb days. All right. But just coming back to what I was saying here, essentially what you're doing is you're refueling and then you're depleting, and then you're refueling and then you're depleting, and then you're refueling and you're depleting. Okay. And typically when we go on a higher carbohydrate day, you don't have to do this, but generally speaking, people will do a lower fat. They would take in a little bit less fat. Okay. And the days that where you're doing the lower carbs, you take in a little more fat. But typically speaking, on a higher carb day, overall, your calories would actually be a little bit higher. Okay. So, anyways, that's all I'm going to say on that. Okay. Let's get to the message of the day on this day 49. And, well, okay, not always the case, but I will say 99% of the time, results speak for themselves. Results speak for themselves. It's not really an accident if you're getting great results, right? So if you're questioning yourself on why you're not getting results, it is more than likely, okay, because I don't want to say all the time. There are people with thyroid issues that maybe they don't know about. There are people who have other hormonal issues that they don't know about, which could influence their weight loss. But in general, on a whole, with almost virtually everybody, the results speak for themselves. So hopefully when you come in for your scan, if you haven't already, there's a bunch of people coming in tomorrow, the results will speak positively for you, right? And if they don't, that's okay. We're just going to move forward, right? And continue to see how we can improve those results, right? Okay. That's all. Positive energy, positive vibes, believe in yourself, and for the love of God, give some gratitude, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.